I am the cracked lens of the camera that filmed Rosa Parks' civil rights movement in the USA. I was born in a factory in Rochester, New York, in the spring of 1950. My glass was poured, shaped, and polished to perfection, designed to capture the world with clarity and precision. I was destined to see everything, to hold moments in time forever. They mounted me on a Graflex Speed graphic, the camera of choice for serious photojournalists. My first owner was James Thompson, a young reporter with the Montgomery Advertiser who believed that images could tell stories words couldn't reach. The world through me was crisp and honest in those early days. I captured children playing in Centennial Hill, politicians shaking hands downtown, and everyday moments that made up life in Montgomery, Alabama. James would polish me every evening, his fingers careful as they wiped my surface clean. "You're my eyes," he would say, "and someday you'll see something that matters." I didn't understand what he meant until that cold December evening in 1955. The air had a bite to it as James carried me onto Cleveland Avenue, the camera bag bumping against his hip as he hurried to catch the bus. He had received a call about a disturbance, a Negro woman arrested for refusing to give up her seat. Just another incident, he thought. Just another day in Montgomery. But I could feel something different in the way he held me that evening. His hands trembled slightly as he checked my aperture, adjusted my focus. The world outside was divided by invisible lines. Who could sit where? Who could drink from which fountain? Who could look whom in the eye? Through me, these lines were visible only in their consequences. The tightness around people's mouths, the careful distance they kept from one another, the way some people's eyes seemed to look past others as if they weren't there at all. James and I had arrived at the Montgomery Police Department as dusk was settling. The air inside was thick with cigarette smoke and tension. In the corner sat a woman, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her expression calm but resolute. There was something about her quiet dignity that drew James forward. I felt him raise, me preparing to capture this moment. That's when it happened. As he moved toward her, an officer bumped into him, perhaps deliberately, sending me crashing against the edge of a desk. I felt the crack form across my surface, a lightning bolt of damage that would forever alter how I saw the world. Pain, if glass could feel such a thing, coursed through my entire being. James cursed softly, examining me with concern in his eyes. But I could still see. Imperfectly now, with a fracture that split my vision, but I could still see. And what I saw that night, through my newly flawed perspective, was the beginning of something momentous. I didn't know it then, but I was about to witness the spark that would ignite a movement. December 1st, 1955. My cracked surface captured Rosa Parks as they brought her in for booking. I couldn't render her perfectly anymore. The fracture in my glass meant her image came to me split, like light through a prism. But perhaps this imperfection was fitting. The world itself was fractured along lines of color and privilege, its vision distorted by prejudice and fear. Through me, James documented everything. The fingerprinting, the mugshot, the quiet determination in Mrs. Parks's eyes. She wasn't what people expected a revolutionary to look like. A 42-year-old seamstress with tired feet and a gentle voice. But I could see something in her that transcended my damaged perspective. A resolve harder than the glass of my own making. "Mom, would you mind telling me why you didn't give up your seat?" James asked her, as an officer stepped away momentarily. The police station hummed with telephones and muttered conversations. "I was tired," she said simply, looking directly into me. Not at me, but through me, as if she could see the future on the other side. But I was tired in a different way than they think. I was tired of giving in. In that moment, my crack seemed to align perfectly with the fissure running through American society, a society divided against itself. Through my damaged eye, I captured her words, her posture, the quiet revolution beginning in her refusal. I documented E.D. Nixon arriving, the community leaders gathering, the first whispers of what would become the Montgomery bus boycott. That night, as James developed the photographs in his small darkroom, the images came through with my distinctive mark, a line across each frame, separating light from shadow. He cursed my damaged state at first, but then paused, studying the effect. "It's like seeing the truth," he murmured, holding one photograph up to the red light. "The division is right there, visible for everyone." My imperfection had become my signature, my wound transformed into witness. The newspapers wouldn't use James's photos. They preferred images that didn't call attention to the fractures in society, but he kept them anyway, understanding instinctively that what we had captured was not just a news story, but history itself, breaking open along its fault lines. As Mrs. Parks left the station that evening, released on bail, I caught one final glimpse of her through my cracked vision, a woman whose simple act of dignity would soon shake the foundations of a nation. Little did any of us know that this was just the beginning. For 381 days, I watched a city transform through my fractured gaze. James carried me everywhere, documenting the Montgomery bus boycott as it unfolded across 1956. My cracked lens became known among the community. People would nod when they saw James approaching with me, knowing that through my damaged eye, their story was being told with a particular truth. I saw the early morning gatherings at Holt Street Baptist Church, where thousands packed the pews and spilled into the streets on December 5th, just days after Rosa Parks' arrest. My imperfect vision captured Dr. King rising to speak, just 26 years old, thrust into leadership. "There comes a time when people get tired," he said, his voice resonating through the church. Through my crack, his image split into duplicates, as if I could see both the young preacher he was and the iconic leader he would become. Day after day, through winter rain and summer heat, I documented empty buses rolling through Montgomery, streets while black citizens walked miles to work. I captured taxi drivers charging 10 cents, the same as bus fare, to participate in the effort. I saw housekeepers walking in worn shoes, businessmen in suits treading miles in the Alabama sun, children joining their parents in this quiet revolution. On February 21st, 1956, my lens recorded Rosa Parks and 88 others as they were indicted under an anti-boycott law. The courtroom on North Perry Street was tense with anticipation as they filed in, Rosa's face a mask of dignified determination. My crack created a line across her features, dividing her expression but not diminishing her resolve. "Hold still," James whispered to himself as he aimed me at her face. "History needs to see this." Throughout that momentous year, I witnessed the harassment, the violence, the bombings of homes belonging to boycott leaders. On January 30th, 1956, I documented the remains of Dr. King's bombed porch on 309 South Jackson Street, the splintered wood a testament to the desperate attempts to break the movement's spirit. King had stood on those same steps, addressing an angry crowd, calling for nonviolence even as his own home lay damaged. "We must love our white brothers," he had said, "no matter what they do to us." Through my fractured vision, I saw both the destruction and the determination, the physical damage and the spiritual resistance. My own broken state seemed to mirror the struggle itself, imperfect, marked by trauma, but still functioning, still bearing witness. By November 1956, the case of Browder versus Gale had reached the Supreme Court. On November 13th, I captured the jubilation as news arrived that segregation on public buses had been declared unconstitutional. My cracked surface reflected faces illuminated with vindication, with tears, with cautious hope. The journey wasn't over, far from it, but a crucial victory had been won. And through it all, I kept seeing Rosa Parks moving quietly through the community, never seeking the spotlight but never stepping back from the struggle she had helped ignite. Time has not been kind to my fragile form. My crack widened over the years as James continued to use me throughout the civil rights movement. I captured the Freedom Riders in 1961, blood streaming down their faces at the Greyhound station in Montgomery. I documented the Children's Crusade in Birmingham in 1963, where my fractured vision split the water from fire hoses into prismatic rainbows as it slammed against young bodies. By the time James retired me in 1968, after capturing the grief following Dr. King's assassination, my damage was too extensive for professional use. He kept me, though, displayed on a shelf in his home, where light would catch my cracked surface each morning, creating scattered rainbows across his wall. James died in 1986, and I passed to his daughter, who donated me to the Civil Rights Memorial Center in Montgomery in 1993. Now I rest in a glass case, my broken form preserved as an artifact of witness. Visitors sometimes pause before me, reading the small placard that explains my history, the cracked lens that documented Rosa Parks' arrest and the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955-1956. What they don't know, what they can't know, is how that crack changed what I saw. Before my injury, I captured the world as it appeared to be, orderly, structured, with everything in its designated place. After the crack, I saw the truth, that the world itself was fractured, that the orderliness was an illusion maintained by force and custom. My damage became my insight. From my place in the memorial, I've watched decades pass. I've seen the children and grandchildren of boycott participants come to learn their history. I've seen Rosa Parks herself visit in 1999, now elderly, her finger gently touching my display case as if she remembered me. "That old camera," she murmured. "It saw me on my worst day and my finest hour at the same time." I've witnessed how a single moment of refusal, captured through my imperfect eye, continued to reverberate through history, inspiring new generations to recognize injustice and stand against it. The Montgomery bus boycott didn't end segregation entirely, but it proved that unified resistance could crack the foundations of injustice, just as my glass had cracked against that desk on December 1st, 1955. Perhaps that's the ultimate lesson I've learned through my fractured existence. Perfection is not a prerequisite for purpose. It is often through our broken places that the most important light shines through. Rosa Parks was just a tired woman with aching feet, not seeking to become an icon. I was just a damaged lens, no longer pristine in my vision. Yet together, we captured a moment that helped change the course of a nation. Look closely at any photograph of that era taken through my cracked glass, and you'll see not just the subject, but the very fracture that ran through America itself, a division that many pretended not to see until it could no longer be ignored. In my imperfection, I revealed a deeper truth than any perfect lens could capture, and that perhaps is why my broken form still matters. I am a reminder that it is often through our damaged places that we see most clearly, and that sometimes it takes a broken lens to truly capture a broken world, and the brave souls working to make it whole again.